Our exploratory journey through the Caribbean CIP countries this week brings us Dominica, an island of some 70,000 inhabitants, bounded to the north and south by the French territories of Guadeloupe and Martinique. Having learned my lesson from that gentleman in the airport in Antigua, I make an effort to arrive in Dominica in a more animated fashion than I'm accustomed to. Dominica has had a citizenship by investment program since 1993, making it the second longest running such program after St. Kitts and Nevis. A passport from this country allows you visa-free access to 122 countries, including the Schengen states, the UK, Singapore, Hong Kong, and India. To qualify, you can either invest $200,000 in an approved real estate project or donate $100,000 to the country. Dominica's nickname is the Nature Island, a moniker it's earned thanks to the natural wilderness, pristine and lush rainforests, one of which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, volcanic activity, and bountiful flora that covers the country. Nowhere else in the Caribbean will you see as much undisturbed wildlife. Dominica has struck a delicate balance between man and nature, as locals allow the wilderness to flourish mostly unopposed and even take steps to preserve it. The wilderness, in turn, draws scores of visitors to benefit the local economy. But every few decades, as if to show she's still the boss of Dominica, Mother Nature asserts herself.
And Hurricane Maria continues as a dangerous major Category 5 hurricane, now pushing away from the Leeward Islands and headed towards the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, potentially a catastrophic event here for the Caribbean. As we look at the satellite, you see that pinhole eye that's indicating just how destructive the winds around the eye wall can be. And that's the reason that folks across Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, are preparing for life-threatening storm surge, heavy rain, and also damaging winds.
In September 2017, Category 5 Hurricane Maria unexpectedly changed direction and hit Dominica very suddenly. Gusts of wind reached up to 200 miles per hour, wreaking havoc and tearing the roofs off of most houses on the island. The storm was of a once-in-a-century magnitude, and at least 40 Dominicans lost their lives. We met Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit in his office to hear about what difference the country's CIP made following the hurricane's destruction. What role has the Citizenship by Investment program played in the wake of the hurricanes?
The Citizenship by Investment, the revenue from this is what we call non-tax revenue. And obviously, if you're impacted by a hurricane of that magnitude, and if everybody has seen the utter destruction which the hurricane caused in Dominica, your ability to earn would have diminished dramatically. So we have not earned any foreign exchange by way of exports, and therefore people haven't been made redundant because their employer's business no longer existed, and therefore revenue from income taxes would have dramatically been impacted. The funds from the Citizenship by Investment program was literally, and I mean this, a lifesaver.
Would you tell us a little bit about why Dominica is an attractive destination for investment?
Well, Dominica is an attractive place for investment because we respect the rule of law, we respect private property. This is a democracy. People's rights and privileges are protected by the Constitution. And if anybody's rights are violated, they have the courts, independent court system to seek redress. There are no taxes on your foreign income if you are not residing here with your citizen. We have no death tax. We have a free market system, and the political climate in our country is stable. We have free and fair elections. A government can be changed literally overnight with no difficulties. But fundamentally, we respect people's rights to their properties. And in respect to our Citizenship by Investment program, we extend those rights to our new citizens. So there is no discrimination between those of us who were born here in Dominica and those who would have become citizens by way of naturalization.
Maria brought the economy to its knees and left the government with a severely reduced tax base. The beauty of citizenship by investment, however, is that it's non-tax revenue. CIP funds, unlike taxes, are voluntarily contributed sums. They also allow for public spending in emergencies without the need to raise taxes or go into debt. What struck me in Dominica was how quickly its population is bouncing back from the blow nature dealt it just a few months ago. Caribbean people are generally seen as having a very relaxed and carefree attitude to life, and that's true in most places. But the locals we spoke to in Dominica also revealed an indomitable entrepreneurial spirit. We just had a huge hurricane 5 months ago, but already people are, getting up in the morning hustling,
We have been getting up since we survived the hurricane. The very next day we were up and we were about. 1 week after the hurricane, I was back at work. The market was much smaller because of the Ross University is now out for some time, and then you find a lot of our tourist sector is basically closed for now, but our local market has still been generating funds. So basically I was back at work like 1 week after.
Right.
As much as the roads were getting cleared, work was coming, we were gone.
Yeah.
Some people have bigger dreams. I have a dream to build a big home like this, and that's what I'm working for.
With half the island still not back on the electrical grid, many Dominicans follow the early to bed, early to rise mantra and commonly get up at sunrise to work, not resting until long after sunset. Extensive economic freedom and absence of state intervention, which is to say hardly any taxes and minimal regulations, allow Dominicans to earn a living in a variety of creative ways, largely unobstructed by bureaucratic impediments. Sammy, a native of Dominica's second city, Portsmouth, is a great example of this. He's carved out a niche for himself, giving tourists guided boat tours up Indian River, and today he's invited us along for the ride. Just a few hundred meters upstream, we've already left behind the buzzing activity of Portsmouth, and the flourishing plant and animal life makes us feel as though we might as well be in the middle of the Amazon. Sammy, who knows Indian River like the back of his hand, has spent the last 5 months clearing it of the debris left by Hurricane Maria. Indian River's greatest claim to fame was its appearance in the blockbuster motion picture Pirates of the Caribbean. The hurricane left Calypso's house in tatters, but Sammy is unperturbed by that. He and his comrades have built a bar and a botanical garden along the upper reaches of the river, which he's keen to show us.
Boats and rent it up and do the job. So that's how I decided I want to make life. I'm happy with me. I've been doing it over 34 years now.
Look at this guy. Huh?
I've been
Built,
Yeah, but like this.
It's like this, but
this
he
was the
built himself a
whole
bar.
river
Very
now
nice.
after the hurricane.
and then we have Cobra.
Before we end the tour of the river, Sammy happily obliges us in our request for a memorable photo opportunity. Like so many other Caribbean islands, Dominica's changed hands between European colonial powers several times during its history, mainly between the English and the French. 213 years ago, General of the French Navy, Lagrange, sailed with his men around this cape over here. They'd just come from capturing Dominica's capital, Roseau, from the English. But the English governor of Dominica had managed to escape, and he came here to Fort Shirley and prepared to defend his island. Upon seeing this British display of force, General Lagrange decided it wasn't worth it. So he took his fleet and he sailed north. We too move onward to other Caribbean islands, not because we're afraid of British cannons, but because we're running out of time. Sam Bayat, head of Bayat Legal Services, is an official marketing agent to Saint Lucia, Grenada, and Dominica. and consultant to clients interested in a passport through the CIPs of those countries.
CIPs in the early days meant that the principal applicant or the head of the family was looking to facilitate his business life, travel, or business needs. The interest today has shifted to family needs, and many are applying with their families. That's why the definition of dependents was changed to include parents above 55 years old and children up to 30 years old. Of course, this is depending if they are not married, financially dependent on the parents, and are studying full-time. Today is the family security, future planning, and education of the children that have become the prime motivator for almost all applicants. As an official marketing agent, and as per our mandate, we promote the program. And since we have a good network, we can properly guide our clients to find the right opportunities.
On the northwestern shore of Dominica, Range Developments are building the Kempinski Resort, the first 5-star hotel in Dominica, and also a development approved for investment through the Citizenship by Investment program. Investing in a unit here at the Kempinski would allow you and your family to qualify for citizenship. The group of islands you can see in the background here is Guadeloupe, which is a French overseas territory. Their capital is Paris, they speak French, and they pay with euros. So the Kempinski in Dominica is a Caribbean 5-star hotel, just an hour and a half boat ride away from the European Union. The next morning, we drive down to Roseau, the nation's capital, to meet Emmanuel Nanthan, head of the Dominica Citizenship by Investment Unit.
Dominica has been blessed with a very strong and very popular CBI program. And I would say, fortunately for us, that program was able to carry us through. So, in spite of the fact that we were knocked down and we lost 400 times our GDP, Dominica has not defaulted on one national debt. We have paid all our workers on time, we have paid all our debt on time, and that's because of the support we have had from the CBI world. And the program that we have, our CBI program, has provided us with enough revenue to carry us through, to take us through those difficult times. So a number of work that's happening now around the country has actually been done with the funds and the revenue that comes from the CBI program. So for us, the CBI program is actually a godsend.
On the drive back to our hotel in Portsmouth, we can't help but stop the car several times to behold the breathtaking vistas offered up by Dominica's unique coastline. This is the Caribbean equivalent to Italy's Amalfi Coast. The next morning, we make our way to Calls, a community center and school for unprivileged young adults.
Because we're an NGO, we get a very small subvention, very small, from the government of Dominica. And therefore we have to, it takes a good bit of money. We need at least 16,000 per month to run.
EC?
Yes, EC, to keep the program going per month. So the sisters, we used to have volunteers from Canada, brothers and so. And therefore, through one of our brothers, Brother Ronald Rambold, we were able to talk and recruit now the present sisters from Canada, the presentation sisters, and they are our major fundraiser. Anyhow they go, we are gone. And I don't know how long that is going to be. As you can see, that is what Maria has done. It is full of books and painted, Hands Across the Sea, and volunteers from Ross, they would come and do things like that. It was completely thrashed. Chairs and everything we had to get rid of.
It's time for us to leave Dominica and move on to the final leg of our journey. Of all the islands we've visited in the Caribbean, this one has left us with the deepest emotional impression. A small community ravaged by the implacable forces of nature and a ruthless twist of fate, Dominica's hardships could easily have brought out the worst in people. But instead, it's bound people together in solidarity. The island's inhabitants are gritting their teeth, tightening their belts, keeping calm and carrying on, and there's no doubt in my mind that the comeback this country is staging will make a big splash. If you want to help Dominicans get a roof over their heads, follow this link to contribute. That's it for this episode of Caribbean Citizenship by Investment, but we'll see you next week in another exotic destination. To make sure you don't miss out on that, subscribe to this channel here on YouTube or follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. You can also follow our weekly newsletter by signing up on our website, imidaily.com. If you're curious to learn more about citizenship by investment programs, send an email to info@imidaily.com. We'd also like to thank the sponsors who made this series possible. I'm Christian Nesem. See you next time.